Like that. So wait.
Same order for the no, you see the red button here. That is zoom in and zoom out. You can just not the red.
Yeah, may I request all of you to keep your mobile in silent mode. Anybody's mobile rings, let's we'll take the mobile between you and you will share it. We'll get all latest mobile phones here.
Maybe we get the iPhone 10.
iPhone 10.
I wanted to get that.
Yeah.
Sure. This is good. This is good.
Whenever you guys are ready. We're ready?
I think just take a stool so that once it's on it, you can just sit.
Namaskara. Good evening to everybody. I can't believe that so many people are here today. It's fantastic. Few months ago, Andrew Cohen had sent a mail that he's coming to visit Bangalore. And last time when he had come, we had arranged a couple of talks in different institutes and so on. And I thought this time, we will not just have a talk, because I came to know Narsim Prabhu also lives in Rajarajanagar, and he's also a spiritual teacher. I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to have a different approach to look at spirituality from two different perspectives. From an Indian perspective and one from a Indo-American perspective. Because I don't want to call him American because he's probably many times more Indian than American. So I thought it would be an interesting attempt to have a dialogue on a topic that all of us are interested. And so for those of you who do not know Andrew Cohen, I would like to say a couple of words. Andrew started coming to India sometime in 1986, or a little bit earlier than that. And he got exposed to Indian spirituality, yoga, Vedanta, and so on. And he started teaching as a spiritual teacher for the past 30 years. And he has had many retreats, literally around the world. And his main interest is looking at enlightenment from a different perspective than what many of the other teachers have looked at. So that is what I think we are going to hear from him today. I will not introduce too much about him because one of the things I'm going to ask both these teachers to do is actually introduce themselves a little bit and explain to us how they found enlightenment in their life, or how they found spiritual experience in their life. So I don't want to dilute their explanation. Similarly, Narsim Prabhu is, as we all know, was formerly an engineer, an MTech from IIT Bombay, worked with a lot of IT companies in India and around the world. And for the past 20 years, has been teaching Vedanta, enlightenment, and different topics to many of you who are already here. And it's a great opportunity for us to know that in Rajarajeshwara Nagara, we have people of his caliber, and it's an opportunity for us to expose as well as expose him to the public, as well as explore that such knowledge exists in Rajarajeshwara Nagara. Just a couple of issues I want to say. If any of you have not turned off the mobile, please turn it off, number one. And number two, there is a bathroom here on the right-hand side, red door, and there is one upstairs. So that can be used. And after the talk or the discussion, there will be dinner. So please stay for dinner. Otherwise, I have to eat all of it. Please don't make me do that. That's the only reason. I want to make sure. Please eat.
A Q&A session before dinner.
Sorry?
A Q&A session before dinner.
No, that will come. That will come. Okay. So what I thought was, many of you who have already received the invitation, we thought that it should not be just a talk by the speakers. It will be based on topics which most of us have, in our own minds. So I have kind of made it as what is enlightenment? Is it necessary? That will be the first topic. Both of them will be taught. The next will be, what is the path of enlightenment? What are the characteristics of an enlightened person? Is it something, just because I have a long beard, I'm an enlightened? A lot of people think it is not true. And is it critical that only individuals should have enlightenment, or is it a collective experience? And is that kind of collective experience necessary for social transformation? Because enlightenment individually and then quote unquote receiving moksha probably has not significant impact. So these are some of the topics that I want them to explore. So I would request each of you to take your own few minutes of time and talk about these topics. And if a particular topic is going beyond a particular time, then maybe I will intervene and just moderate, if I find it necessary.
So I'll never be able to remember all those topics.
I will, in between.
I have a simple mind.
You can look at me, then I will.
As long as you direct the traffic, I'll be
I will direct the traffic. So I thought I will start with both the speakers talking about 5 minutes about themselves as to what their experience was and how you got spiritually enlightened, that we get a feel for your life experiences. And then we'll go into the definition of what is enlightenment and is it necessary to be enlightened.
Okay. So who should start? I should start.
You are the guest.
Thank you. So I have 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. So I was brought up in a secular, non-religious, non-spiritual family in New York City. So I had no background for spirituality at all. I was brought up in a materialist cultural environment. When I was 16 years old, I spontaneously had an experience of what's called cosmic consciousness. In this experience of cosmic consciousness was completely unexpected. I was sitting up late one night having a conversation with my mother. The doors of perception opened. I suddenly became aware of an infinite presence that had no beginning and no end. I realized that infinite presence was who I was, what everything that existed and everything that didn't exist was all only that presence. This presence that had no beginning, no end, and no end was intelligent, was self-aware. And I experienced the nature of this presence as a kind of love that was so overwhelming and so completely intoxicating. I'd never experienced anything like it. It was a love that was conscious and self-aware, that was infinite, and was the ultimate nature of everything that existed and everything that didn't exist. In those few moments, I knew that there was no such thing as death, and that all points in space are exactly the same place. So this was my spiritual initiation that came directly from the cosmos, and I don't know why it happened. At the end of this experience, I received a message from the cosmos, and the message was, if you devote your life to me and me alone, you have nothing to fear. So I was a boy, I was a hippie, long hair, and I didn't know what it meant, but I couldn't forget what happened. And so when I was 22 years old, I decided I have to follow this initiation, this calling from the beyond. And I made up my mind that I'm going to become an enlightened person. And I'm going to do anything that I need to do in order to become an enlightened person. So, and I knew I could do it. And I knew I could do it because I had the experience that I described to you. So when I started reading spiritual books, and when I started reading about the experiences of the great masters, I recognized in their descriptions a very similar, the great similarity to the experience that I had. So I knew what they were speaking about was real, and I had no doubt. So as a speaker, as a seeker, because I had no doubt about the fact that this miracle really existed, I was very convinced that I could rediscover it. So I did all the things that seekers do. I learned how to meditate. I went to see all the different spiritual teachers I could see. I read every book I could find. And I had all kinds of experiences, but the big change didn't happen. Eventually I went to India. That's where I met my wife, Alka. And in India, I did many spiritual retreats. I went to see many gurus. I went to many ashrams. I still didn't find what I was looking for. I became fed up with gurus, fed up with teachers, fed up with paths. I wanted to be independent. I was very inspired by the great master J. Krishnamurti. And I thought I can do this on my own. I don't have to depend on anybody else. And then I heard about a great master that lived in Lucknow that at the time was still unknown. And his name was H.W.L. Punja. He eventually became very famous and is known in India as Papaji. He was a direct disciple of the great Ramana Maharshi. So when I heard about this man who was a direct disciple of the great Ramana Maharshi, I felt, I have to go see him. And when I went to see him, he completely blew my mind. He changed my life in a matter of weeks. The first thing that happened when I met him was I said, I don't have any expectations from you. And he replied with great confidence that that was very good. So I was declaring my independence when I met him, and he declared his independence simultaneously. The first question I asked him was, how much effort does it take to be free? He whispered, it doesn't take any effort to be free. When he said those words, I had a direct experience of the freedom he was describing. I had a vision. The vision was of water flowing down the side of a mountain. I realized my own true nature was just like that water, ever free and always unobstructed. I realized in that instant that unenlightenment was only a thought and that I'd always been free, and I was completely shocked. In that instant, he shouted, "That's it!" And then I looked up at him. How did he know what I was thinking? This was the beginning of my meeting with him. I stayed with him for 3 weeks. He was kind, he was generous. He answered every question. He was compassionate. We went for walks, we had talks. He invited me for lunch at his son's house every day. He treated me with so much kindness, I can't describe it to you. I felt like the luckiest person in the world, but I also had many doubts. After 3 weeks, I left him. I went to visit friends. And he said, when you leave me, something very big is going to happen to you. And when he told me something very big was going to happen to me, I doubted him even more because I thought, how does he know? And the instant I left his presence, when I went to sit in the train in the station in Lucknow on my way to New Delhi, I was engulfed by a miraculous infinite presence, very similar to the visitation from the unknown that I experienced as a young man. And I was overwhelmed with this presence. In this presence, there was a vibration of love and a current of bliss that was completely overwhelming. And this presence over the next 3 weeks felt like the experience was like being consumed by an infinite being that one couldn't see. And the being was intelligent, the being was self-aware, the being was infinite, and the nature of this being was infinite love, infinite joy, and infinite peace. But I felt like Andrew, the separate, unique individual, his consciousness and his identity was being utterly consumed, eaten alive by this infinite presence that I couldn't see. And I was completely thrilled, and I was absolutely terrified. And I went through states of ecstasy and exhilaration and moments of unbelievable terror, because I thought, if this doesn't stop, there'll be nothing left of me. And this lasted for 3 weeks. And in the midst of this experience, I suddenly had access to a depth of wisdom, knowledge, insight, and clarity that had not been there before. So as a result of the grace of my guru, the grace of this extraordinary teacher, simply being in his presence and sitting in front of him with an open heart and an open mind, he gave me the ultimate gift that can be given, the secret to the keys of the mystery of existence. And I didn't earn it. I was given to it everything was given to me for free. And that was 30 years ago. And the minute I left him, I started teaching. It came spontaneously to me. I wasn't trying to teach anybody anything. I never had the desire to be a teacher. I never thought about being a teacher. It was never my aspiration. When I went back to see him 3 weeks later, I fell at his feet. I burst into tears. And he said, I knew this was going to happen. And he said, I want you to accept responsibility for this work. And that's the short story. Thank you.
My pranams to all divine light of the self present here. Very inspiring to hear Andrew's story. I had a privilege of meeting Andrew about 15 years back in one of the satsangs he conducted at S. Vyas University, and today we are meeting. About my life story. So this body is known as Narsimha Prabhu for the world. As far as myself, I am a nobody. Nobody means not a body. Everybody thinks that this is a person. I am not a thing, a person, a nothing. Whatever I am to tell you is not for me, but what happened to this body for many years. I was fortunate. When I say I always refer to body. Okay, so I was fortunate. Since very young age, I had very intense practices of yoga under a great master. For almost 15 years, very intense practice of pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Various things I went through without knowing where it's heading. Okay, it's all a part of, like, somebody is interested in cricket, somebody is interested in football. I was attracted to this, and I also didn't know where it's going. Okay, and I didn't ask also. It was joy to do that, and I was doing it. When I was young, there was a yogi who came to me. I had an opportunity to meet a yogi who initiated me into Kundalini Yoga early in the Brahmi Muhurt at 3 o'clock. He came from River Tunga, and I had not heard of him before that. I had not heard of him later. So that's the only time I heard of him. I met him. So there was a initiation into Kundalini Yoga. So I had a good fortune of going through many things without asking for it and without knowing where it's going. So that's why I was never a seeker. I was just accepting life as it comes. I did my MTech master's program, and life was always very tough for me, in the sense because of the family economic conditions and intense competition what you have in India. I was always striving to make things happen, and I was always doing well in studies. I joined a job, and the job was very interesting, and I dedicated to my work very intensely because it was a work of national importance, where I was working on a telecom research project. And I thought it's important for the country, and I was always seeing the people who will be benefited by that. Somehow my practice of Raja Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, and now it became Karma Yoga. I didn't know the word called Karma Yoga also. I was working for intense long durations without holidays for many days, and every time when I do, I was thinking of the benefit it will bring to people. That's all was my mind. And I think that led to a lot of the Karma Hatha Yoga and Kundalini Yoga led to a lot of inner purification in the nervous system. And Karma Yoga did a lot to my mental purification, something like that. One day I was doing, when I was about 28 or 29 years, I was doing my Sandhya Vandanam or meditation. Suddenly I started feeling a rush of energy in my spinal cord, in my nervous system. It went into my brain and it activated many centers, and it entered into what you call as Sahasrara, or the top of the head. It was a very, very unique experience, very, very powerful experience, and I opened my eyes. That is the day my world ended as I know it. I saw everything is connected in the universe. Its universe is a living being. I started crying. The cry of what was so overflowing joy. The wall was no longer a stone. It was me, not in me in the sense personal sense. That's a me universal sense. The tree is me. The plant is me. The bird flying in the sky is me. Everything is a part of me. Don't think me, confuse the me with the Prabhu as a body, the Prabhu as a consciousness, which is I call as nobody. The life was such a joyful, and I could not share with anybody. So share with my mother something, and I told her. She got shocked out of her life. Okay, so then I was not able to communicate to anybody. This is so different, and I see everybody is seeing the world as individual. I was also seeing that. Now the world is a living entity. It is very different life altogether. And of course, I had heard all these things, what about Advaita, Kundalini experience, and all those things are somewhere I read and all. But I never had imagination that something can happen to this fellow. Okay, so then what happened? I was working very intensely. In the office life was tough, and somewhere the people are seeing the world in a different way. I see the world in a different way. People are running around with the big problems, and I smile. And I was near manager, and people think that this guy is manager is supposed to be very grim and very what I say tough and jump at the problem. So this guy is smiling. Something is wrong with this manager. So I had to hide my understanding. Okay, I had to keep it to myself to somehow manage my life in the world. So I managed to keep it under guard. And I also got curious, what is this all about? Okay, I've read about so many things. Then this question led me to so many masters. Where I used to go, Andrew was another. I used to go there and just sit. Okay, many times I used to sit in tears. The tears will flow. And many times I used to get my goosebumps. The shirt, the hair will stand erect, and my shirt will rotate. That is and the intensity is so high, so joyful. I call it as ecstasy or joy and overflowing love because everything is connected. I try to separate out my office life from this, try not to show to anybody. But I used to meditate for hours. Come off working, come and sit in the home. 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. My mother was sitting there. She got worried. Okay, this fellow is going into some room and sitting and meditating. Something's wrong. Okay, she heard a lot of stories about people becoming monk and all. Okay, she came to her daily advice for me is don't get to this. Okay, these are not for you. Spirituality is not for you. Spirituality is for monks. Past and people used to started coming one by one. And believe me, nobody came for anything called spiritual. Okay, first case who came was marriage. Either somebody wants to get married, or somebody wants to get is in trouble in marriage. So that led to my first law of enlightenment. If you want to get enlightened, marriage is the first and most important thing to happen. If you get married, there is a problem. If you don't get married, there is a problem. So gateway to enlightenment is marriage. That's not my first law. So then second is people trouble in the job, people trouble tension. And it's not like I was a counselor. Okay, people come to me because somebody told them this, they give some good advice. Go. So they come. Then I found everybody is troubled somewhere. Okay, with marriage trouble, without marriage trouble, with job trouble, without job trouble. And people came with deep psychological disorders also. Deep psychology, somebody is staying on medication for a time. So then I had no question, no desire to be a guru or nobody desire to be a teacher, and I just want to be nobody now also. So then I started advising people, and people somehow found some consent, peace. Then gradually they listened to me. Why are you getting this thing? I said everything is connected in the universe. Then how it is possible? That is God, enlightenment, liberation, all those things. Then they got curious. Now the smaller problem got replaced with a bigger problem. The smaller problem was marriage. Now the bigger problem is how to get enlightenment. So this is the key. Replace the smaller problem, the bigger problem got enlightenment. And many people are now happily forgotten their smaller problems. They're after enlightenment. So that led to me many teachers, and some good, some bad. I had a good opportunity, a good privilege of interacting closely with the Mata Amritanavai. So life was a flow, a continuous flow, a joyful flow. With a lot of up and downs. I've seen very severe ups and downs in my career, very severe problems, but I was always equanimously accepting. Then, with Providence, I met, and this actually feeling of oneness and feeling this thing, it continued for a long time. It's not one time, okay? It is a ongoing experience. It's just not coming and disappearing. Then one day I met my master, Ajja. So he looked into me and said, "Who are you? Who am I? What is Ajay saying? Who am I? I'm so and so." My biodata was actually, I was applying for jobs, no? My biodata was 3-page resume. So who am I? This question possessed me. Then I had the opportunity to get to many of the Vedantic teachings, very great teachers in non-duality, duality, Advaita. So with that, my understanding of this phenomenon grew, and my students also started growing, and I started teaching them. I didn't have any formal mechanism of teaching. Whatever teaching I used to come. This thing, it evolved actually. It just grew. So finally, I settled down to a method of teaching, of ancient Vedantic teaching. It's actually Sri Ramana Maharshi's direct path, which is who am I? And Atmananda Sri Krishna Menon's path of Advaita teaching. So some of the people got benefited, some people got benefited, some people didn't get benefited. So overall, some people you can see here. That's why.
So if I can stop you for a minute. Yeah. So when you say, based on say Ramana Maharshi or Menon, or as he said, Puja, is it important that you should meet a guru? Yeah. And after meeting a guru, how do you define that you got enlightened? What is enlightenment in your terms? How do you define it?
So we are going to the first question.
I will ask Andrew to start that question, okay, so that it will be a good idea for you to start from this perspective. Right. If you don't mind. I just want to create a different kind of ideas.
So, when I met my guru, I was fed up with gurus. As I explained, I didn't want to have anything to do with gurus. I wanted to be free from all gurus. And I can say 30 years, I met my guru in 1986, 32 years later, that the day I met my guru was the most important day of my life. It remains the most important day of my life. It's the day that changed absolutely everything forever. So speaking only from my own personal experience, meeting a truly realized master, when we are sincere in our aspirations for liberation and for moksha, is the most important possible thing that could ever happen to us. And I mean, I don't know how to say it. It's just that my life has changed forever simply because I met this most extraordinary man. My guru told me a story about an extraordinary experience he had. And I'll just tell you what he told me. I have no judgment. I don't know how to understand what he said. I'll just tell you what he said. He said he was having a very deep meditation one day. And he suddenly saw life forms that he could not recognize from his own human experience. And these life forms were so strange looking that they terrified him. And then one life form would appear, and then another life form would appear, and another life form would appear. And he couldn't recognize any of them because they looked so strange. And he said he recognized that they were all him, but this was on some other planet in the universe. And he said this experience went on for a long time. And another life form would appear and disappear, and another life form that he couldn't recognize or understand another. And this went on and on for a long time. And then he said this same experience happened on another planet, and another one, and another one. He had many wild experiences, and this was only one of thousands that he told. And he said eventually, in this vision, he was on planet Earth, and he could recognize the life forms until the life forms became human beings. And he realized he was every one of them, leading up to his last birth, his prior birth, because he'd had a very clear realization and recognition of who he'd been in his last birth. And this whole panoramic journey of one incarnation leading to another incarnation, leading to another incarnation, leading to another incarnation, led to finally this incarnation, this life. And then he went through the entire story of this life, leading up to the moment he met his guru, which was the great Ramana Maharshi. And the minute the picture of Ramana appeared, the movie stopped. That was the end of the story. So my own experience, in my own not so dramatic way, has been identical, because meeting the true master, a true master, someone who has the capacity to awaken us, is the most important and extraordinary thing that could ever happen to us. Now, there's a traditional Vedantic story about meeting the Guru, which is that some human beings are very ripe and ready. Some human beings are not so ripe, and some human beings are not ripe at all. So what they say is that the enlightened master is like a raging fire, and sitting in front of the raging fire, if a piece of wood is very, very dry, it will burst into flames. And if the wood is damp, it will take time to dry out before it catches fire. And if the wood is very wet, it will take a long time to dry out before it's ready to catch fire. So, if we have a powerfully awakened spiritual master who has the capacity to enlighten us, simply sitting in their presence won't automatically necessarily fully enlighten us. But being in the presence of an enlightened master, of a truly enlightened master, the real thing is like sitting near a portal to the infinite, a direct portal to infinity. So after I met my guru and I realized who he really was, and this took me some time because I was full of doubts, but after that I had the experience that I had with him, I no longer saw him as merely a human being in a human form with a human personality and a human history, but I saw him as a living portal to the infinite. And I knew that's who he really was. He appeared to be merely a human being, but I knew directly from my own experience of sitting in his presence and of trusting him who he really was. I know there's a lot of controversy these days about the value of gurus and about the fact that we all need to grow up because we've outgrown the guru system. So I also think there are many problems in the ancient traditional guru system, because one of the problems is that in the old ancient traditional way of understanding how this works, the guru is seen as being the cosmic parent, and the disciples are also seen as being the children. And whereas this is understandable for a certain period of time, this sets up a dialectic in the relationship that can often keep the disciples in a relationship with their students that can keep people from actually evolving. So this is part of a much bigger, more complex story. So where I personally feel that meeting a spiritual master that has the capacity to enlighten us, if we're a true seeker, if we're ready for enlightenment, it's probably the most important fortuitous event that could ever happen in our lives. And at the same time, the guru system as a cultural structure, I have no doubt needs to evolve. It needs to develop in very important ways. And this is part of a much longer discussion.
So, is guru necessary for enlightenment? Without guru, there is no enlightenment possible. That's my opinion. That's my experience. When actually there was a spontaneous awakening within me, but that was because I was taught, initiated into a yoga system, very engaged. Even before I knew what is life, I was initiated into a system, something which has seeds were sown. The fruits came later. I don't even know the name of the master, but without him, probably I will not be experiencing what I experience today. And if I look at my life, everything is happening. Everything is a gift for me from the universe. Whether my family or sunlight, moon, everything is given. And in that given environment and social conditioning, cultural conditioning, religious conditioning, family conditioning, we go through a lot of conditionings. And we think that is reality. Until we come across a master who has gone beyond the conditioning, then we experience, is that possible? Like if you see a person who is an Olympics runner, he can run in 10 seconds. Wow, even half an hour I can't run. So something very different strikes you. Your conditioning starts breaking down. Okay, the mental shackles will break down. And that meeting, I would say, meeting with the guru. Whether it requires a follow-up meeting, whether it requires a continuous guru-disciple relationship, all depends on your level of evolution. It's not necessarily that it can happen this thing. For me, many times it has just happened within one meeting, half a day meeting. Lot of inner transformation happened that I realized gradually because of my past life sadhana. Whatever my past life sadhana, whichever thread I had dropped, that thread I picked up and continued. So I got a good exposure to Kashmiri Shaivism, non-duality and duality, or picking up the threads of past life sadhana. But at every point of time, there was a master who introduced me. Just give an example of this thing. One is of Kundalini, I told you. Second one is there was a event which was happening in Jainagar. Mata Amritamai was there. So that event, I didn't know about her. That time internet was not there and it was not very popular. So I had to catch up the bus, and I walked into a place where there's some bhajans are going on. So at that time I was experiencing oneness, joy, and all. I thought this is also a very good thrill to get some goosebumps and some tears. So that was at the time Amrita Mata was not very popular. Okay, it was a very small crowd was there, and she was actually choir secretary, and she started singing Krishna, Krishna like this. The moment I entered, my mind blew out. Then she sings Krishna, Krishna, everything appears to be Krishna. It was actually 6:30 in the evening, I remember. Then she started, Jai, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Suddenly everything turned into mother. The hall, everything. I lost my consciousness. Practically lost the time, sense of time. I was supposed to go back home by 7:30, catching a bus. By the time I realized where I am, it was 11:30 in the night. I had lost sense of time itself. Time itself was not there for me. Then I went to her, having darshan. People are standing. I don't know who is she. Okay, just went to have a darshan with her. And at that time, she was talking to me, and I was doing a mental japa, one of the japas. Then she told me in my ear, continue japa. Oh my God, this lady knows what's going on in my mind. Okay, so that was the, and I didn't know what, at that time she was not popular. I took a small photograph of her. And and I knew that she's from Kerala. Then sometime we had to go to Kerala for my brother's marriage. He was getting married from a girl in Kerala. And we went in a car. And I remember that this lady is from Kerala. So I showed the photograph to people on the street. Who knows her? That time nobody. Do you know this lady? Some people smiled. This guy is showing some woman's face. Asking, who is this? Okay. Then what was her name? I know only name Amma. Amma is mother. So then some place they said, Amma lives here. You go here. So then I went. When I went there, there was a board there. And my father was filming. You have come for marriage, and your marriage party you are taking somewhere. And for that woman. So I got on, and somebody came from this thing, ashram. She said, I'm from Bangalore. Yes, you stand in the queue, Amma wants to meet you. All right. Surprising. And my daughter was, younger daughter was a small kid. I got a shot. I went near her. She asked somebody to nearby, ask him what he wants. And the person asked him, what do you want? What do you want? I didn't want anything. Then he says, Amma is ready to give whatever you want. Right? Then I said, okay, if you can give me something, give me Jnana, Bhakti, Vairagya. Jnana means wisdom. Bhakti means devotion. And Vairagya means dispassion. I don't know what mouth I said that. Okay, because it was not a planned thought. Okay, it just came into the mind and said. And mother started laughing. She laughed like loudly. She lifted her hand. The whole house everybody. And she said, take it. She's told in English actually. She doesn't speak English. She said, take it. Oh my God. I asked for something and she said, take it. And from that day onwards, my life has not been changed. One event I told you, the Kundalini awakening, and after this thing. And everything in wisdom, whatever is tradition, many traditions just dawned on me deep inside. And many things I experienced in life after that, many of them are what I call as synchronicities or coincidences or grace, which is beyond imagination. I don't want to get into this detail because that falls into the domain of miracles and magic. But finally I had a doubt. Is this all realization? Somewhere I had a doubt. Is this all realization or something more is there? That took me to a master, Ajja. Again, Ajja is a common name. Old man. I only know that Ajja lives in a place called Puttur. Nothing more, nothing less. Which address, don't know. I had a holiday. So in that holiday, we went to that place called, we went to Puttur. It was now August 15th actually. August 14th is the day we went there because I had a holiday on 15th. So when I went there, it was ashram, old age home. And actually in the city, nobody knows Ajja. Ajja, who knows Ajja? Okay, which Ajja they say? Because Ajja is not a very popular, he is very close. Actually, incidentally, Andrew Cohen had done an interview of him. And I went there into ashram, and the ashram guys, it was late in the night. They were good to provide some bed for us. It's like myself, my wife, and 2 kids, and one of my friends. Okay, we had gone there. So next day morning is the 15th of August, Independence Day. 15th of August, they are supposed to hoist the flag, and Ajja is supposed to hoist the flag. So now, as usual, they used to print 500 invitation cards and send to people. This time, 500 invitation cards were printed. No invitation cards. They used to give to villagers. No. Why? That's actually called Gandhi Ashram. Ajja said, I have already invited people. The ashramites are waiting. Nobody is there. My family, my friend, 5 people, and somebody came. Ajja also not coming out. They just inaugurated. Okay. So the people are not coming. Then Ajja has told that I have already invited. Then we sat for a bhajan program there. People are sitting and everybody is doing bhajan. Every time, every Independence Day, Ajja will come and sit in the chair where plastic chair was put. He'll come and sit. This time he has not come. I don't know his behavior. I don't know what he says. Then I asked the people, why he is not coming? They says, Ajja, we don't know. Ajja, we asked Ajja, he says, I am experiencing my independence. Nobody should interfere with my independence. He is Swatantra. So he is not coming out. We have come all the way from Bangalore. Then I said, can I go and meet him? So then they said, okay. If he says yes, then myself, my friend, my family went there. My 2 children were young. So the moment we went there and sat there, he started blabbering. I could not understand. I was actually going there, meeting somebody who a great being, and this guy is blabbering. I was looking at his face like this. My friend was there, sitting near me, got frustrated. He walked out. Then immediately switching to Kannada. Why did you bring him? I invited only you people. The invitation is only for you people. Why did you bring him? So that guy was changed. Then he asked me only one question. That changed my life. Who are you? Till that point of time, I was going through this Kundalini experience, oneness, what light and sound, and what hearing, that divine sound, light. I was thinking almost I was actually, I practically concluded that I am God. Okay. Somehow I got a human body, I am a God. That was the conclusion. But suddenly, who are you? This question bugged me. Who are you? That's what he is saying. And he said, go and think about it. And I contemplated this one question that I never came to imagine. Because everything happened in my life had happened to me. I did teach it. Okay, it's all happened. Universe's gift. So I went and one day I was actually sitting for meditation. Who am I? The entire eye blew out. Till that point I was thinking I am a human being. I am a person. I am one with the God. I itself is deceptive. I don't know. It was a pseudo I. It had never existence. So then some more students started coming. I didn't invite anybody. They started coming. My mother got worried. She said, why are these people coming? Okay, I said, they are coming for instruction in liberation, enlightenment. My mother asked, why don't you teach me? You also teach me. I also want enlightenment. Then I told her, you have to listen to me. You have to understand what I'm saying. Then she said, no, ma, I have become very old. Next life, you teach me. I will teach me in the young age. You come to take birth in my family, birth with me, and teach me. I said, how come you are saying I don't have any next birth at all? Okay. Then she said, yeah, why don't you do something and give me a grace? No, liberate me. Anyway, you are my son now. I got opened my eyes. What son? Okay, it's all spontaneous. No, deliberate. What son? Your son is dead 8 years back. That means it's actually enlightenment. So your all psychological conditioning will go. My mother was shocked. Actually, her mind blew out. For 7 days, she was crying. Then what is standing in front of me? Is the body. Do you think it's me? It just really shocked the hell out of her. And it was not as part of deliberate thought. And my teaching, what happens? Many times it happens. People come and ask. It gets developed. And I'm absolutely a non-doer. Absolutely things are happening. and I'm going with the flow of life. That's the grace. That's the grace of the divine, the grace of the master, which flows through life. It's not only in my life, in your life also the same thing. You think you are living your life, life is being led to you.
Stories or your experiences, like what you said and what you said. And when somebody has to look at a